In this video, we talk about deep research in ChatGPT. So one of the things that happens with artificial intelligence, we ask questions and sometimes we get answers that are not even close to being right. I had this happen yesterday. I'll share that with you here in a moment. But we call this hallucination, and we definitely don't want to ask technical questions and get the wrong answer and believe that the answer is right. If you're a CPA, you've got to know that your answer is right. So let's take a look at how I used deep research yesterday to get the right answer. Yesterday I was doing some work with a company, and we had this issue come up about whether or not you have what's called must-select engagements in engagement reviews, which is different from system reviews in the peer review process. Since I've not done a lot of engagement reviews, I thought, well, I'm a little confused about whether or not there's a must-select option. And so I asked this question, and I got this answer, and this is from ChatGPT, and it said, yes, there is such a requirement. Well, when I got that answer, I'm thinking, this doesn't feel right to me. So at that point, I decided to use deep research. Now, deep research, to use that feature, you'll go here, and when you click here, you'll see it highlights deep research, and then you can ask the question. Once you do that, then you pose the question. So I basically pose the same question again. And sometimes when you ask a question in deep research, it'll ask you to clarify your request. It wants to make sure it's understanding the question. So it asked me to clarify. I did that here, and then it begins to work. As it begins to work, you'll see a bar here that shows the progress that it is making. It'll also tell you how many sources or how many documents it has looked at in trying to resolve the question. So again, you go to deep research at the bottom, you ask that question, then it usually asks for a clarification. I provided that, and then it says, okay, I got it, and then it begins to work. Then you'll see a progress bar as it works on your question. Now, my experience in using deep research is it's usually taking 4 or 5 minutes to give me a response. So why is it taking so long to give me the response? Well, understand it's actually going out and looking at several documents. So if you don't use deep research, it's using the trained information that it has to give you that quick response. And that trained information, and that's where it's gone out and scoured the internet. It's got all this information available to answer questions. But when it uses that method, in other words, you're not using deep research, sometimes you get these hallucinations. And as I always say with AI, you better know what you're doing before you ask questions of AI. In other words, you need to be pretty knowledgeable as a CPA before you start using ChatGPT or any other AI model. The reason being, you get the hallucinations, and you've got to be able to discern whether or not the answer is reasonable. When I got the answer yesterday to that first question, I'm like, this is not right. So then I went to deep research. I asked it this question. It starts going out and looking at particular documents in relation to my questions. In other words, it's not drawing from all that trained information. It's looking at specific documents related to my question. And then it's much like what we do as human beings. In the past, we go to Google, we'd find all these different articles, we'd read each article, and then we might go into Word and summarize what we're seeing in each article. That's what's happening with deep research. So as it's working, it's telling you, hey, I'm working on it, and here's the progress I've made. Once you're done, then you're back. Well, once you're done, you're going to get an actual answer. Now I'm back to the screen where I received my answer. So earlier ChatGPT says, okay, you given me clarification. I got your clarification. You saw the progress bar. Well, at this point, what you're seeing is it's showing what it looks like after it completes the search. And then it's giving me the answer. And it does a really good job. So here's my answer, and I've got clickable links in here where I can click to a specific article that it's drawn its answer from and read that article if I want to. You can see the answer's fairly long, and then it gets into more detail about my question. It's talking about that must cover option, and then it gives me more, and then it gives me distinctions, and it gives me a summary. So when I get to the bottom, I've got this nice summary of what it found. And also you've got sources. So if you want to go back, this is a summary of the sources. So you can go back and look at the sources. So what do I think about deep research? I think it might be I think it's the most powerful thing I've seen with artificial intelligence in terms of doing research as a CPA. They'll continue to improve these AI engines, and it'll get even better than this. But at the moment, I think deep research, I won't say it's perfect because I don't know that it is, but I think it's a really nice solution when you're looking for very complicated research questions and you want some clickable links to articles that support an answer that it gives you. This is nice. I'm certainly going to continue using it. Now, one thing about deep research before I leave, it costs money. And because I'm sure it's using a lot of resources on the OpenAI side, and so it's costing them money. They're passing that cost to me and you as a consumer. Right now, my plan is limited to 10 deep research questions a month. And I can tell you, I'm using all of those 10 within 2 weeks of the month. I thought about going to the $200 a month plan, and then you can do many more. I'm sure it's dozens of deep research questions, but that's $200 a month. Give it a go. You can get it at the $20 a month level. I think I'm right about that. You can check. I'm using what's called the Teams version, so I'm able to use it there. But look at deep research. Some of the other AI products like Claude, like Perplexity, they have these deep research functions. You can look there and try those as well. I'm just a ChatGPT guy, and I can't keep up with multiple AI products, so this is what I'm using. So give deep research a try. I think you'll be glad you started using it. Take care. Till next time. Bye now.